Arnautovic's touch was just a bit too heavy. Looked like they could get away on the counter-attack, but not to be in the early stages. But I thought that was a decent ball in from Puncheon. As John was saying, the injuries for Stoke have hit them in places. Obviously, Shaqiri losing him early doors, and Jack Butland between the sticks. He had such a cracking start to last season, and there were many saying that he should be England's #1, and they're still missing him. So there are a couple of players who they're still missing.
Yeah, but it seems, it's always like that, isn't it? It's, somebody's always missing. You're never quite going to get your first 11 out there. So you've got to deal with it. He's got a talented squad. Like I said, at times, I mean, it couldn't be any further afield, really, from the Tony Pulis side. Well, it wasn't great to watch, but for the most part, you get 100% application from a Land of the Giants team. For Mark Hughes, I think they got Shaqiri, and I thought great signing, same Arnautovic, and I thought, this team is going places. But then you need to have that allied to hard work. We see that with, I think, in a weird way, Man.City have set the tone for everybody this season by the work rate. That's allied to talent. But you know what? There's no let-up from those guys, and they just show how it should be done. Stoke have got enough talent and could easily win this game. I'm just not feeling them at the minute. I don't think Palace are great either, and every time I watch Palace this season, they seem to be undone by a set piece. So for me, Scott Dan and Damien Delaney, who's actually dropped to the bench today, have had their problems, and Delaney, I think, was a weak link. So James Tompkins comes in. I think it's a good signing, and actually, it's a very good move from the manager, because you try your best. You can't legislate for mistakes, and Delaney's been making loads of them so far this season.
Yep, certainly looks set to be a tight encounter this afternoon. The ball's been stuck in the middle of the park for quite a spell, but here comes Wilfred Bonny. He's twisting, looking for support. Goes back towards former Liverpool man Joe Allen, who, as John says, they need Whelan and Allen to put in some serious mileage this afternoon. Just get that work rate and allow the likes of Bojan and Arnautovic a bit of space, and Bonny up front.
But that's the problem. I mean, Whelan's always going to put in a shift in Allen. But if Bojan doesn't, then it's like player short. Now he's a nice player, isn't he? And he scores a few goals. It'd be funny. He's one of those who might score. You might not see his teammates celebrate with him as the flag goes up. And it looked like a good break there for Walters, but he just strayed offside. I don't know if that ball was from Bruno Martins Indy, somebody I don't know too much about, but the left back, a decent ball there, and he's dead unlucky. So I think very close to being played onside by Scott Dan there on that in that defensive line.
Yeah, very close indeed. It was very direct from Stoke. Indy just playing a lovely weighted ball. But I'm with you, John. I think Scott Dan was tremendously close. Just a camera angle, couldn't really just see straight down the line, but certainly a marginal decision. I
mean, the thing is, he shot it going anyway, so I guess it didn't really matter that much.
Yeah, just hit the outside of the post, and I think it was a full-blooded attempt as Palace looked to go up the other end. It's a long ball played forward, but they will pick up the scraps, will Stoke, and come away with it.
You see how far Joe Ledley was forward there? I mean, he was centre forward at that point. Here comes Andros Townsend, maybe a chance.
Tries to get a cross in, but I think that's gone in behind for a corner kick. Again, another man who's trying to recapture some form at the top flight and maybe kickstart his England career again under Sam Allardyce. Good run down the left-hand side, but defensive work there as Usain Bohan gave a terrible pass there and really put Glenn Johnson in bother. And Johnson's always going to struggle for pace against Townsend, but to be fair, did well to get back and put it out of play. But it's going to be a corner kick to Palace. There's a bit of argy-bargy in the middle of the park there. It's going to be Puncheon, who seems to take them from both sides as he swings this one in, drifted towards the back post. Scott Dan does manage to get a head underneath it. Second ball could break towards Townsend. Now with Zaha, he's trying to drag a ball back in play. Stoke with a bit of defending to do. It's not the best of passes, but every single clearance is going straight to a Palace man. And now it's Townsend with another dink ball back in behind. Peels behind the goal for a handball. Nothing given by the referee. But Stoke's passing has been terrible. They just keep giving it back to Palace. But they give it back again. Another opportunity. This is terrible from Stoke as, well, Glenn Johnson's eventually back. But it was like Groundhog Day. Every time they got it, they just give it straight back. I haven't seen anything like that for a long time.
Well, a couple of times Joe Allen there giving it away. I mean, one clearance in the box, he spooned it up in the air. I thought, well, you didn't mean that, did you? And then just at the edge of the area, just giving the ball away. He wouldn't have done that when he was at Swansea there. So clever playing out from the back. We saw Boyan earlier giving the ball away, putting Andros Townsend on the front foot. Townsend is actually playing really well. He isn't quite at that place where he was a shoo-in for England, but he's not far away from that, in form. He's refound a little bit of his pace there, and so you were bang right. Glenn Johnson did ever so well to get back to him there and get a foot in, but Palace have made a really good start here, and well, like I said, I fancy them today. I think they're eventually settling down. They've got Benteke out there, and one good thing the manager has done, he said, look, we've got this guy. Let's make sure we find him. And so in the games that I've seen where they've played Benteke, they look for him a lot. Let's get him the ball. He's going to score. He's had 20 goals. He's a striker. So let's use him. And they've done that really well. And so, it's Palace who've got to a better start, I fancy.
Certainly have. And they've got a free kick after a decent driving run from Wilfried Zaha. And it is going to be Townsend who's over this one. He's certainly got something in his locker. He might try and just dink this one in. Maybe it's just a bit out of his range, and the angle of his run-up suggests that he might just try and clip this one in for a teammate. He does towards the back post. Heads go up. Oh, and it's in the back of the net. And, well, there's appeals. It looked like it could have been an own goal, but it might be Tompkins who goes marching away. He's the man who's celebrating. And, well, that's a fantastic ball in from Townsend. And, well, Palace managed to get some fruits for their early labour. They have an early lead.
Yeah, that's great. I think, and well-deserved, really. They've had Stoke under the cosh. They just couldn't clear their lines. We talked about Stoke back in the day with Pulis, land of the Giants. They're not like that anymore. Walters looks on and it might be his goal. We'll take another look at it before we commit to it. Townsend's a perfect ball to the far post. For me, Walters gets there ahead of Tompkins, and that's an own goal.
Well, Crystal Palace have taken an early lead against Stoke City, and it's an own goal from John Walters. Well, it was a fantastic ball in from Andros Townsend. Palace have done all the early work and have put their Stoke defence on loads of pressure in the early stages, and eventually that pressure told. It was an own goal from John Walters. He was under pressure from James Tompkins at the back post. Tompkins reeled away in celebration, but it was clearly off the Irishman getting the final touch. So Palace with an early lead at Selhurst Park.
Yeah, an early lead and a deserved lead. They've been pretty good. And here they are again. A little spin and a turn from Punchin. He's a player you've got to admire. Punchin. It is weird. I love football, the Premier League, and players have their ups and downs, but you follow everybody. He's half a chance for Benteke in the box, but in fact it's Zaha at the far post, and in the end he may well have come off a Stoke head. But back for Punchin. A couple of seasons ago he missed a penalty, got rubbished in the papers and the pundits and all that, and he absolutely came back like gangbusters and showed his character and his desire. Last season they had a really tricky spell. I remember Punchin coming up with a goal. He was always in tears. He stopped the rot. They were relegation for him. He got him back going again, and you've got to love that. If he plays for your team, you love him to bits, and I'm sure the Palace fans do. As Punchin takes a corner, it's another opportunity. It's in the back of the net. They've got two. Oh, this time it's Scott down with a header, and Stoke absolutely undone. Palace 2, Stoke 0.
The Potters are being blown away at Selhurst Park. It's now Crystal Palace 2, Stoke 0, and Mark Hughes just stood there in his technical area wondering where it's all gone wrong. This time it's just a set piece, simple ball. This is what is bread and butter really for Stoke City to defend in the past, but a great header from Scott Dan rises above the Potters captain Ryan Shawcross and buries the header. Nothing the keeper can do about that one, and well, Palace almost out of sight in these early stages. Crystal Palace 2, Stoke 0.
Scott Dan can't stop scoring. Scored in each of Palace's last 3 home games. So good for him. Like I said, I thought it'd been Delaney who are just having a torrid time at the back, and actually Palace have been throwing the ball in the back of the net from set piece into their own net. But, the look on Mark Hughes' face like thunder, arms folded across the chest in a defensive gesture. He's not enjoying himself. But they've just been unable to clear their lines today. I look at their team, I think he looks a little bit light. If I'm going down the trenches, I'm not going in there with Boyan. I'm really not. Joe Allen has had a really poor game so far. I'm looking at players in there. I like Charlie Adam. For me, I'd start him. He'd play every week, and I'd make sure I'd play him until he was as fit as you like. That's his only problem, really. I think he does struggle with the physical demands. I'd make sure I'd played him until he was absolutely fit as a lop, and also I'd fine him every time he got a yellow card, because that's the other Achilles heel for him. But for me, he's a tremendous player who can play away out. He's an intelligent player, holds the ball, in midfield, knows how to play out defence, and then knows when just to clear his lines. I like Diouf as well, and I want that hard work in the team rather than Boyan. The back four today, they've got Cameron alongside Shawcross. He used to be land of the Giants. Now I'm looking at the team, I'm thinking, not really. They look like they've got a soft underbelly, and it's been exposed.
Certainly, as John said, Palace have just really come out the traps, the better of the two teams. I thought before kick-off we saw the form, and you just thought it's going to be a pretty cagey one. Neither team wants to lose this one, but Stoke have been so lacklustre. That little spell moments ago, maybe 5-6 minutes ago, where Stoke must have done about 6 clearances, and they all went about 10 metres, and they all went to a Palace player. You got the feeling that no one's really putting their stamp on this. And then to see Ryan Shawcross beat into a header straight from a corner, I mean, you don't really see that, and it makes you just think there is a soft underbelly to this team now, which you never said that with Stoke. It was always direct and physical. Now that maybe they're playing a bit more football, but they've gone away from what made them a 10th, 11th team in the Premier League.
No, he's right. The nature of it's changed. A long time ago, Tony Pulis took hold of a Stoke team. They were at the bottom of the Championship. And do you know what? It's to start off with, they played 4-5-1. And I think they played Adi Akin by a great big, huge, hulking centre forward. And he was as much a defender as an attacker in 4-5-1. And I remember them playing at Ellen Road, and it was just the most boring game you've ever seen. But he stopped the rot, he turned it round, and then from making him almost impossible to score against, he started nicking goals, that long throw and all that kind of stuff, and it changed the nature of it. They reached their pinnacle, that team, with a 3-0 victory over Arsenal in the cup. I remember they were flying, and then they got a few injuries, and it derailed them. And then I think the magic went away. And then Marcus, you think, well, yeah, he's getting good players in. But in doing that, he's absolutely changed the nature of the team. And you look at this bunch and you think, really? I'm not sure about Joe Allen. I think Wilfred Bonney was a good signing. And you can't sniff at the likes of Shaqiri and Arnautovic. They're world-class players, but sometimes they're a luxury. And sometimes you can't afford that luxury player. Cantona played at Manchester United and played pretty well. But Leeds United, the champions who had him before that, they couldn't afford the luxury of him. Sometimes you need a lot more hard workers in there for that talent in, as Arnautovic just hobbling there. And it makes you think, I'm sure he did just get caught. But who out of that bunch had signed up to be, amongst the bottom dogs and fighting a relegation campaign? Because I'm pretty sure that Boyan didn't sign up for that, or Shaqiri didn't sign up for that.
No, and they've got the record signing at Md.Robeul on the bench, so we might see him at some stage if Arnautovic doesn't get back on his feet. But again, the pressure keeps coming on from Palace. Arnautovic back doing some defensive duties, but Punchin earns his side at another corner kick just from the side where they scored the second goal. There was only 2 minutes between the 2 goals for the hosts. This is the 4th corner for Palace. And, Punchin has delivered some interesting balls. I think every single one has hit a Palace player, whether it's been drifted in or whipped in. We'll see another ball in from Punchin. Again, he sort of drifts it towards the back post. Another Palace header, but it lofts into the hands of Shay Given.
Well, I tell you what, it's embarrassing. Benteke wins the header this time. He rises above Shawcross. Shawcross can't do it all himself. He's got to mark everybody. Do you know what I mean? It's ridiculous. And Stoke, it's like, throw them out there and see if they can't. Oh, Nartovich gives it away. You know, just sprinkle a few players out there and just say, well, you know, go and express yourself, lads. I don't think that works. You need to work out what's your identity. Away from home, are you going to be hard to beat? What you're going to do? I don't know. I don't feel this Stoke team. I don't know what identity it is. You might argue they're fairly well balanced. I just don't know. At the moment, they've had nothing going forward. Bonnie's got no ball at all. Boyan and Nartovich, both of them have given it away. Watlers is too busy defending. Joe Allen can't clear his lines. I haven't seen Glenn Whelan. So it puts the back four under massive pressure.
Yeah, too many players missing for the Potters. 80 minutes gone. You still listen to Independent Off-Tube Studio Commentary. Palace lead by 2-0. Fantastic start for the Eagles as Joe Allen is just dispossessed. And again, he's casting a frustrated figure. Many slumped shoulders already amongst some of the Stoke players. They really need to go up a few gears, otherwise they could get blown away here this afternoon. Could be another 4-0 as they suffered at Tottenham. But it's never been that way for Stoke since they've been in the Premier League. Hard to beat is a phrase you'd say about them. And they were even the acid test for foreign players coming to the league. Oh, will they be able to do it, you know, at Stoke on a Wednesday night? They were the acid test of physical English football. But they're getting blown away here as Zaha just studs the ball through towards Benteke. He's just trying to twist and turn and look for options. Goes back towards Puncheon. Striker goal straight down the throat of Shay Given. Either side, it could have caused him problems, but they're just playing. It looks fun. It looks fun for Palace. Like they're having a really fun afternoon.
Honestly, Stoke are making Palace look like Brazil 70, aren't they? Or Harlem Globetrotters or something. Just unbelievably a poor start. You're so right about how we perceive Stoke. You'll not be able to do it at the Britannia on a wet Wednesday night. You know what? The team that we think have got the soft underbelly, someone like Spurs, keep going to the Britannia Stadium and winning in the last couple of seasons. And it's no longer a fortress. And here in this game, away from the Britannia, they look positively poor. You know what? They're 2 goals down, and we're 20 minutes in. But they've got a lot of talent, and they can get back in the game. It's, you know, if you're a Stoke fan or you backed them today, you're listening to us, you're thinking, oh, God, these boys are hammering it home a little bit. But honestly, they've been that bad. But they can get back in. There's no doubt the talent that's there. But at the moment, they're not really playing like a team. And collectively, they can't seem to string 2 passes together.
Yeah, then we did Chelsea-Swansea the other week, and we thought we hadn't seen a performance as bad as Swansea in the opening stage of that game. They managed to get a 2-2 draw out of that game, so certainly not over yet for Stoke with just the nature of football, but they'll look back at this 20 minutes as probably not as a perfect example how not to start a Premier League football match. Here they come forward now, and Wilfred Bonney was never onside in a million years. He was desperately trying to get back, and the ball really should have never gone through to him. But Tompkins and Dan looking really comfortable at the back at the moment, and have done a lot of damage going forward as well. Still saying this is a Tompkins goal.
It might just have creased off in the final touch. Let's take a look. And maybe off his toe end, you know, and I think he wheeled around in celebration to claim it. He's not that sort, is he? We got a goal yesterday, didn't we, from Lukaku, where he claimed a touch on Bolassi's ball in. I thought that didn't look quite like it, but you know what? If they're giving Tompkins it, then clearly it's because he got the final. And he looked like he just scraped off his toe end, having just about come off Walters.
Well, Stoke coming forward now with Wilfred Bonney. He's got a bit of space. He tries to drag that one, and he just pushes it wide. It's going to be a corner kick. You know, it's not going to be a corner kick, goal kick.
Well, he took a deflection. It seemed to anyway. He really lacked conviction. I thought he was waiting and waiting and waiting. He's surrounded by 3, and then I think he did have a deflected shot.
Yeah, well, it's just gone wide of the goal, but I think we'll see it. I think it has been given as a goal kick, so further frustration for Stoke. But it's Crystal Palace who are really enjoying their afternoon so far, playing some great football, passing it around, really fluid stuff from them. Going back to the first goal, it looked like John Walters got the final touch, but it was James Tompkins who actually got, after the maybe scraped off the head of John Walters, and Tompkins might have just glanced his toe before going in the back of the net. So the goal has gone down to the Crystal Palace centre-backs. So Tompkins and Dan, the two centre-backs, with a goal apiece for the Eagles, who are really enjoying their afternoon so far. Stoke certainly do have time to get back in this one. A save, but it's going to be another corner kick to Crystal Palace. And well, these have caused Stoke City all sorts of problems through the game. You see sign up there, get well, Pape Suarez, who's obviously had that injury in a car accident recently, so he's going to be out for a few months. I think it was a thigh injury and some jaw damage that he did in that, but best wishes to him as he looks to get back to full fitness. Here come Palace again. He'll be enjoying watching this as they almost get a third. Stoke again with some desperate defending to do. But will Palace go backwards? It's been all Crystal Palace in this first quarter of the game. Exciting stuff so far. It's going to be John Hogan to take us through to half-time.
Yeah, and just we say that, first misplaced pass really from Palace. Palace have been hard at it. Nice banner there, keep strong Pape out of the crowd. I like Pape Suarez. I think he's a class fullback. It's been a difficult season really for Palace, but he might have been dropped recently, but anyway, he's a good player, and I'm sure he'll make a big comeback. And I had to try to get the ball out of his feet, but again, good work in midfield, and yet again the ball is back with Palace. And Stoke have been strangers to the ball. Steve Mandanda launches it long this time, and Glenn Johnson rises for the header. But Palace have it back inevitably. They're dominating possession. Weird, weird crossfield ball there for Palace, and flies straight out. And it will allow Stoke a little bit of ball. Bruno Martins-Indy into midfield for Whelan. Across the back four with Jeff Cameron. He was closed down, but he managed to get the ball away to Glenn Johnson. He left-footed cross-field ball. It's a good ball for Arnautovic, who heads it into the path of Boyan. Arnautovic then takes on one too many, and he's robbed of the ball. James MacArthur just getting involved as, again, Palace set off into midfield. Ledley then out to the left-hand side, and a chance for them to overlap with Martin Kelly left-hand side. Ball then out to the right for Joel Ward, and a good ball for Zaha, who just tried his luck there with Bruno Martins-Indy, and then he fights so hard to win that ball back. Zaha, I thought he was fouled in that, and yeah, a bit of a lunge from Boyan. He didn't give it up there, Zaha, got dispossessed, but look at that tenacity, and he wanted it back, didn't he?
Seems to have that hunger back, doesn't he? Maybe that went missing when he thought, I've made it, when he got signed up for Manchester United. I think maybe that move just came a bit too soon for him, but he's, credit to him, he's thought, well, I'll start again, go back to Palace, and that sort of fight and hunger and tenacity, as he said, John, is something that caught the eye in the first place, and he's playing well this afternoon.
Yeah, I think they're playing well as a collective, aren't they? As we see another ball in, another opportunity. It's a poor clearance there, but Stoke managed to get it away at the expense of another corner kick. But Tompkins head in hands, time for him. He knew that was close to a third. Great delivery in from Andros Townsend. Shea Given didn't know whether to stick or twist. His defenders then are all facing back towards the goal. With the delivery, it was delicious, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean these balls in are fantastic. There's great defending from Glenn Johnson running back towards goal just to get the block in ahead of Tompkins. But yeah, the free kicks from Townsend have been superb.
And the corner's not too bad either from Punchin, who delivers another one to the far post. Up go the heads again. I think that came off the Stoke head first. And the ball will eventually be cleared by Whelan, who, well, he tried to flick it over the head of Punchin there, and Palace just have it back. They've I like to see possession stats. It feels to me like they've dominated. There's a poor ball in by Ledley, but guess what? They'll get it back almost immediately, and Stoke just cannot hang on to the ball. Here, Palace again. Where's the marking? Honestly, they've just taken the throw, and it's like, well, which one of 4 players you want to throw the ball to? They're waiting for the ball to go out, and Anatovic fighting hard for his team. Somebody's got it. Yeah, we're 29 minutes in, it's 2-0, but it could be any scoreline, really.
Yeah, I mean, as we keep saying how poor Stoke have been, but they'll know themselves that this first half hour has not been acceptable. But as you say, you saw Bowen sort of plodding out, realising, oh yeah, there's no one marking 3 players. You could have thrown a blanket over those 3 Palace players who taken it quickly and started marching down the right like a brigade. There was no one there to stop him. It was, I don't know how that move didn't really end up creating something. It was Arnautovic who came back and thought, I'm going to have to try and break this up myself. But there's just too many players who aren't switched on for Stoke. They might have been at kick-off, but maybe at 2-0 down, they are switching off and thinking, well, what's the next game on the fixture list when we'll be back home? Because don't seem up for it. As Arnautovic puts in another tackle, at least he's giving it a go.
Yeah, he is, and I think you give credit to him. He might be have a scowl on his face throughout the game, but at least he's a trier. Look at players like Boyan. Delafeu came off the bench for Everton yesterday, and as good as he's going forward, he just doesn't care when they've got some defending to do. His marker just walked past him to make a 2-on-1. He just watched him. And just like, really? Do you know what I mean? And like, he must think, oh, that's not what I do. It's not my game, that. And for Boyan, I don't really get involved. You know, I don't like to. I'm good going forward, though. Hey, you know, and it's not the kind of league where you can do that. Boyan scored some super goals, didn't he, last season? Clearly, there's a lot of talent, but needs to be allied to hard work as well. Cross comes in for Stoke, but before Bonnie can get there, Steve Mandanda, who's literally had nothing to do in the first half hour, comes, and it's a comfortable claim for him. Puts the ball down at his feet. Then he just rolls it towards Joel Ward. No pressure on Ward. In fact, it's Dan. No pressure on him. Ledley comes between 2 centre-backs into midfield. MacArthur's got a lot of time on the ball. He's over the halfway line. Not a challenge.
This is remarkable. We saw Liverpool versus Chelsea Friday night. From the kick-off to a man, every Liverpool player, it was Chelsea who kicked off, every Liverpool player was sprinting full pelt to try and get the ball back. As you say, they just were allowed to coast there. Even Bojan was putting his arms up and going, are we going to press or put a challenge in? You know, Palace will be thinking, how are we so lucky to have a game like this so far?
Yeah, I mean, I don't quite understand it, and teams who want to stand off or will wait for them at the halfway line, just allowing teams to come on. I watched Burnley. If you think Stoke are bad today, then Burnley equally as bad yesterday. Leicester were all over them and just allowed to dominate possession. Leicester, who probably were tired from midweek, you know, having Champions League game, emotionally getting up for that, the victory, the emotion of that for their fans who'd made the trip, and then the trip there and back. And you thought for Burnley, go on and give them a test and work hard. Ball into the box, flicked in, an awful ball. from Boyan, and easy for Mandanda. But they didn't. They just stood off, waited the halfway line, didn't get really a challenge in. And, eventually they let Slimani, Vardy and Mahrez work their spells, and it was all too easy. Here Stoke are way too passive, aren't they, when they don't have the ball? If you want the blueprint for success this season, you look at Man.City. Look at what they do when they don't have the ball. Look at how hard Liverpool work. You know, the victorious teams, the hard-working teams last season, Leicester, nobody worked as hard as them. You know, they fouled back as a team, didn't they? Worked hard for each other, and they had that great counter-attack. But Spurs, and how much ground do those Tottenham players cover? Do you know what I mean? If you're allowing a team to be lazy, let's sit off at halfway. For me, it might work out for you a game or two, but it sets a tone. And your players will lapse into that. Well, we just thought we'd sit back this game. No, but I told you to press this game. Well, no, we just thought. Do you know what I mean? Don't just think. Every time you send him out there, I look at Guardiola on the touchline, and he's screaming at everybody. Nobody's let off for even half a second. If anybody makes any kind of semblance of mistake, he's on it. And I'm not sure that Stoke are feeling Mark Hughes with his arms folded across his chest. How does that help? You know, they're really too passive today. But on the ball right now, and maybe a chance. There is some talent here. And now making a break down left-hand side is Bruno Martins Indy. Ball into the box. An absolute shocker. Collectively, they can't they can't seem to find a teammate either. That's not helping. That they're not passing well today. It's like a collective failure. But you know, in football parlance, you'd say they're definitely not off the coach yet. They've just cannot put it together.
No, and a troubling stat for Stoke fans is that Stoke have never gone on to win a Premier League game when 2 or more goals behind, so they'd have to make history today if they were to get 3 points. And as you say, at the moment, you know, I think if they just got 1 goal back, they'd be delighted. But I guess last five minutes or so, they've stopped Palace going forward, stopped the chances, maybe enjoying a bit more of the ball, but still, there's no cutting edge really with Boney. They need to. They've got Mbula on the bench, as I said. Diouf as well, who put in a shift. John Walters has picked up a knock here, so maybe an opportunity for one of those 2 players to come on. Maybe a bit of an ankle roll there from John Walters, who looks in a bit of pain.
Yeah, it hurt that, didn't it? Just one of those things. Contact with Andros Townsend. Of course, there's another game in the Premier League kicked off at the same time, and I'm glad we're doing ours. Southampton 0, Swansea 0. Saints, of course, played in midweek. We watched Swansea last weekend, and they were truly awful, weren't they? And it was funny. We were all over that, and they managed to get a draw, but it papered over the cracks. Listen to Alan Curtis. Well, he said we started off with a back 3. We realised it didn't really work. Everybody, the boys worked on it in training, decided it was the right thing to do, but it wasn't. He was really calm about it all, but they were absolutely all at sea, weren't they? It was just about the worst display I've seen from a Premier League side for a while. And here we've got Stoke trying to fight back. Or Walters' ball into the box, but Stoke have been truly abject in this first 35 minutes. And Walters again putting a ball into the box, but again he can't find him. It looked like Tompkins it was who cleared his lines. And Palace look a lot more assured at the back with Tompkins in there as opposed to Damien Delaney. Scott Down had his own wobble in form last season. He didn't play that well. But the two seem to have a good understanding. And yeah, they've got a bit of work to do now, Palace, because they've visibly just knocked off. It's like they're taking a breather now. 2-0, it was too easy. And so Stoke might have a little spell here before half-time. Joe Allen's got a free kick to take, right-hand side, parallel with the edge of the area, so the box is stacked. Maybe a chance for Shawcross going forward. The ball comes in, and ball taken off the head of Ryan Shawcross by Scott Dan. Well, he got there first, but it will be a corner kick, so maybe an opportunity. I mean, if they go in at half-time 2-1, they'll feel like it's the great escape, won't they?
Yeah, they will do, and it will give them some hope for the second half. We might see more centre-backs scoring in this game if, well, they take it short. I just thought if they put another ball in, oh, and that has come to absolutely nothing. That is a terrible mistake, really, from Stoke. Between Bohan and Allen, played it short. Allen lost the ball with Bohan not really supporting him. Obviously, it was a training ground move that went completely pear-shaped, but sort of sums up their afternoon, I guess.
Well, for me, honestly, I would take off Joe Allen and Boyan at half-time. Charlie Adam and Mami Biram Diouf worked so hard, and he's got a goal threat. They need to score at least 2 goals, don't they? And Charlie Adam, for me, he's got goals in him, and also, you know, he's a fighter, and he's a terrific passer of the ball. You know, he can pass it into the back of the net from the halfway line, can't he? So, a big fan of Charlie Adam. And he feels like he's been around forever, but you know what? He's not a billion years old. Not even sure he's quite 30 yet. He might be, but we'll take a look at him in terms of his age. Just 30. So yeah, I mean, I suppose you get to veteran when you're 30 years of age, but I don't think there's too many miles on the clock after recent seasons. Here come Palace again, edge of the area, and a scamper from Townsend, and eventually. Well, he lays the ball off for a shot that's over the top of the goal frame from Ledley.
Well, it was all Crystal Palace in the early stages of this game. Goals from the 2 centre-backs, James Tompkins and Scott Dann. Stoke haven't really offered a great deal going forward. The passing has been poor behind the man, losing possession quite easily. Joe Allen's had a disappointing game along with Bohan in the middle of the park, just not quite working for those two this afternoon. Stoke have managed to stem the flow of the Palace attacks, but the ball's stuck in the middle of the park at the moment. The Eagles taking their foot off the gas, but still lead by 2-0.
They do. They found it too easy. As well, again, a little bit of industry to pick up the ball deep, but Stoke going nowhere fast. Boyan, in fairness to him, is, you know, he's going searching, looking for the ball to pick it up, but it's just it just didn't working out for them. Here is Zaha on the ball. He'd got below the halfway line. Finds Townsend, finds Punch, and Punch has had a fine game. But I think sometimes you play as well as you're allowed to, and I think the Palace boys have been allowed to shine. Dan and Tompkins, the 2 centre-backs with goals. You know, a series of set pieces where, you know, they've run the opposition ragged. I think that they'd been certainly practicing set pieces, it looks like to me, because that had been an Achilles heel for them this season. But not only defensively, but going forward. I mean, they hadn't had to defend too many, but going forward as well. I think, particularly for Dan, his header was off a sort of training ground exercise, running round the back and making sure you get goal side. It's that where you stand behind your own man. You're not allowing yourself to get marked or any contact, so you can get a run on and really attack the ball, and that worked out really well. I know they do work on that at Palace. Anyway, given clears his lines, we've hit the 40-minute mark, and it is still Palace 2 goals to the good. Listening to independent off-tube studio commentary of what has been a decent game to watch. I mean, I guess that we'll have both enjoyed the industry of Crystal Palace in this game, and that their players showing the flair and the quality that I'm sure the Palace fans saw a lot of last season in a different team with Balazi, that counter-attacking, quick, smart team. He and Zaha set the terms of engagement, if you like, although they didn't really have a striker to back them up. This Palace team is different. It's got Benteke at the top of it all, but they've also got Townsend, and he's playing ever so well. Ball into the box here and to the far post. I mean, that's brilliant from Palace. You know, Joel Ward's as far forward as anybody there, hunting up at the far post, and it's a great cross from Kelly as well. 2 fullbacks getting into their stride. Again, Palace is more likely to score a third than Stoke get one back, really.
Yeah, I mean, this game just reminds me of our Thursday night game, John. We did Southampton, Sparta Prague, and Southampton got the 2 goals in the first half. Really looked like they had job done at half time. Maybe they had a bit of a lull in the second half and picked off the third, but Sparta Prague never looked like they'd got off the plane, and well, Stoke looked like they've never got off the bus. It has that sort of feeling about this match, and we're singing Southampton's praises that evening, and likewise likewise with Palace today. They've just outplayed their opposition, and they'll be delighted to go in 2-0 at half time and push on in the second.
Yeah, that's right. I think, again, you know, we talked about that for Southampton, where they were so easily and so far ahead. It was like a gulf. But second half, all they did was a containing job, which we were a little bit disappointed at, actually. But, you know, then it seemed like common sense. Their inaction, of course, as well today, as the ball's back to Mandanda. And it's still goalless in their game, so it would appear. Southampton 0, Swansea 0. So clearly they were trying to keep a bit in reserve. For Palace, I think, you know, they could pat themselves on the back at half-time, but what you'd rather see, and they're clearly knocked off, is that them go forward and grab that third goal. I don't think you're ever secure in the Premier League at 2-0. You know, Stoke get and Juff a bit of long ball, and you're under massive pressure. You know, you end up coming away with a point when you should have had 3. So I always think, you know, you can't rest on your laurels. You need to keep cracking on, and until they've got that third Palace, I don't think they're entirely safe. Ball delivered into the box for Stoke, but that was an easy defensive header from Joel Ward. Ball now with Stoke have dominated possession in the last 10 minutes of the game, but they're doing next to nothing with it. Cameron finds Shawcross. He tries to find Bonnie, but he can't. And, well, the ball is picked up in the midfield by Joe Allen. And for once, he finds a colleague, although it does go backwards. And then ball again, one in the middle of the park by Crystal Palace. Punch and Arnautovic chasing it through the triangle, but not really getting much help. He set the tone then. His colleagues actually trying to help him out, but the ball breaks to Joe Ledley, and Palace can come again in the middle of the park. And so absolutely dominating this first half. If anything, it came too easy, and it's been a quiet last 10 minutes because they're absolutely just winning at a canter, aren't they?
They are. I mean, for himself, Alan Pardew was under a bit of pressure until a couple of weeks ago. Obviously, they get that victory over Middlesbrough, and you know they're well on their way to a win this afternoon. Still got the second half, of course, but it would take a massive turnaround from Stoke, and their first victory having gone 2 goals behind yet. So, and then his stock rises, and you know all is well at Selhurst Park again. I think. With Benteke, we've not seen a great deal from him, but he's always going to draw defenders, and it maybe just gives other people a bit more space. I mean, compared to Emmanuel Adebayor last season, it's chalk and cheese.
Oh, Connor Wickham.
And Connor Wickham as well, he needs to get a run of games under his belt, but offers them something else.
Yeah, for me, if you keep guaranteed goals, I think you're playing 40 times in a season, you're going to get 20 goals. You know, and I just think they'll do that. For me, Palace look like a mid-table side. They might do a little bit better than top 10, and they get Cabaye back. They look like, you know, an honest enough bunch. They look set up well. There's a nice balance about them. Last year, it was all about scurry and counter-attack. This year, it's a very different team. They've lost Bolasie, but, you know, Townsend is beginning to play better. He's just getting a run of games. You wouldn't change him. You know, hopefully he can steer clear of injuries because he's getting his pace back and his confidence. Like we said, Benteke, he'll do a job for you. Zaha, again, he's a terrific player and just needs to fling an arm round him, keep playing him, give him the confidence. Puncheon's playing well today, and you know, even Joe Ledley, I'm not his biggest fan, but he's having a decent game. He and MacArthur working hard in the middle of the park and doing well enough. Ledley wins ball again, and here they go. Palace going again. I bet they wish they could play Stoke every week. It'd been that easy first half. Into added time at the end of the first half. Referee Craig Pawson looks at his watch, puts the whistle to the lips, and he blows. Crystal Palace 2, Stoke 0 at half-time.
Well, it's half-time at Selhurst Park. It's been far too easy for Crystal Palace. They lead by 2-0, and it's been the two centre-backs with the goals. First one for James Tompkins on 9 minutes. Decent ball in from Andros Townsend. John Walters was there at the back post. Looked like he'd got a touch. Could have been an own goal, but it's gone down to James Tompkins, who might have just got a little toe in there at the end. Scott Dan with a powerful header for the second. Crystal Palace cruising at 2-0 against Stoke City.